Villages and towns. Many early towns and villages, often located at transportation nodes like boat and ferry landings, the intersections of roads, and later on at railroad stations, served their entrepôts for transporting farm produce to the city. In the 17th century, the Dutch established a number of towns, including Harlem in northern Manhattan, Brooklyn or Brooklyn, New Amersfoort or Flatlands, Midwood or Flatbush, New Utrecht, and Bochwich or Bushwick, all in today's Brooklyn, and Old Dorp or Old Dorp on Staten Island. English families also settled towns in New Netherland. They moved across Long Island south from New England, first to eastern Long Island, and then further to the west, to today's Brooklyn and Queens. There, they settled Gravesend, Maspeth, Flushing, which became a Quaker community, and Middleburg, later known as both Newtown and Elmhurst. Other English families moved west from Connecticut to settle the town of Westchester in today's Bronx. In the late 1970s, Winter and Bankoff conducted excavations with their Brooklyn College students at Gravesend, which was settled in 1643 by the English Anabaptist lady Deborah Moody and her followers. The Anabaptists had come to Dutch Long Island to escape the religious restrictions of Puritan New England. Gravesend was unusual in that it was planned community. It was laid out in 4 contiguous squares divided by 2 intersecting roads. Each quadrant was designed to hold 10 house lots arranged around a common, with supporting farmland radiating out of the village center. The archaeologists digging in the northwest and southwest quadrants of the town located the 17th century ground surface buried under modern debris, but they found no traces of house foundations anywhere, not even in the southwest quadrant where the excavations were most extensive and where early records indicated that houses had stood. As Winter notes, the excavations indicated that no houses had ever been built before there. In fact, it appears that the well-ordered plans for the early Gravesend community were never entirely carried out. Some of the plans must have existed only on paper. Towns continued to be established in the city's environs throughout the 19th century. In the 1820s and 1830s, at around the time of emancipation in New York State, free people of African descent founded several villages that would later be incorporated into the city. These include Wicksville in today's Bedford-Stuyvesant section in Brooklyn, and Seneca Village in today's Central Park in Manhattan. In addition, Sandy Ground, an 18th century white community on Staten Island, became an interracial one at about this time. Many of the churches in these communities are thought to have served as stations on the Underground Railroad. The African Americans who bought this land in these towns may have been motivated, at least in part, by the amendment to the state constitution, which imposed a 250 property requirement for suffrage for African American men, at the same time that it gradually removed all property requirements for men of European descent. This discriminatory provision remained in effect until 1870. There have been excavations in 2 of these towns. The first town, Wicksville, was named after James Weeks, an African American stevedore who bought land in the 1830s from what had been the Lefferts estate. By the 1850s, the community had grown so large that it could host a number of African American institutions, including an orphanage, a home for the aged, and Colored School Number 2. Some of the churches, Bethel Tabernacle, African Methodist Episcopal Church, and the Barron Missionary Baptist Church, survive to this day, and the school continues as PS 243. Many men from the village worked in the Fulton Street markets, and many of the women did domestic work in the nearby town of Bedford. The village was the birthplace of Susan Smith McKinney Stewart, the third African American woman physician in the nation and the first in New York State. In 1883, with the rapid urbanization that followed the opening of the Brooklyn Bridge, Wicksville lost its identity as a separate community and was gradually forgotten. It later became part of the Bedford-Stuyvesant, a modern-day African American neighborhood. In the late 1960s, with the growing public interest in African American history, Wicksville was rediscovered. 4 of the original houses are still standing in Hutterfly Road and form the centerpiece of the Society for the Preservation of Wicksville and Bedford-Stuyvesant history. In 1968-1970, historian James Hurley and community member William Harley founded the Historical Society and organized a community project that saved many of Wicksville's material traces from the ravages of urban renewal. Project members salvaged objects from many of the houses before they were torn down and organized a community archaeology project. Advised by Archaeologist Michael Cohn of the Brooklyn Children's Museum, they arranged for young people from youth groups and the local Boy Scout group to dig with college students and adult volunteers. Although most of the block they examined had already been heavily disturbed by demolition machinery, the project proved to be a catalyst for the community's preservation under the long-term leadership of Joan Maynard. The Historical Society became a vital force in the community, which still stands today.